Today I want to tell you about the top 100 big moves with Ichimoku, a method that has a very good win rate and helps us go along with the major trend. Today I'll explain how to identify trend creation in Ichimoku, and also how to recognize a ranging market, which I'm sure you haven't seen anywhere else. This method works very well for all markets, including Forex, gold, crypto, and even stocks. I recommend not missing out on any of the important points and setups. As usual, I would like to extend a special thanks to all the friends who ask me about their mission strategies. Truly, some very good strategies are being sent to me every day, and I am actually using some of them in my own missions. I have placed my Telegram ID in the caption so you can contact me there. Let's thoroughly examine Ichimoku together and see how we can identify a trend using Ichimoku, how to take positions, and how we can make calls that can be said to have intentionally captured the market trend. To better see the situation, I will remove Tenkan-sen, Chiku, Span A, and Span B. I don't think about Span A and B. Now let's also increase the thickness of the Tenkan-sen a bit, so that it becomes clearer. Well, our chart is a gold chart on a 5-minute time frame, and as I mentioned at the beginning, you can use this strategy on any time frame, with any currency pair, any digital currency, and any stock. This demonstrates the great power of the method I am presenting to you. Well, after everything, let's move on to the Kijun-sen. Kijun-sen, Diu. As I mentioned to you, let's see how we can form it. A trend is forming here. If we look at this point, you can observe that the Kijun-sen has almost given us a flat state here. And after the candles moved below the Kijun-sen itself, the Kijun-sen also started stepping downwards up to this point. From this point onward, if we choose to ignore these because they are really minor, we have a very good upward step here. This indicates that bullish tendencies are forming in the market for us. Well, if we add an MACD to our chart here, you will observe that we also have a positive divergence here, meaning the MACD itself has managed to show us these divergences. So here, with the step that is taken upwards, it becomes almost clear to us that our situation is becoming bullish. As you can see, this same leg that moved upwards was a bullish leg that managed to break above the Kumo cloud. Therefore, from this point onward, if we don't have a downward bearish leg, the market situation for us is either sideways or bullish, which you can see here as it reaches this peak that we have here. This one downward movement has started. So it shows that our bullish situation is probably disappearing, and it's very likely that either a bearish situation will start or a sideways situation. Well, let me add the Tenkan-sen to the chart as well. And let's change the color a bit so it can be seen better. Right here, we have a peak. Let me enlarge it. If we want to look here, we have an upward trend, so it became clear here that our trend is becoming bullish, and here we have almost confirmed the bullish trend. Another important point is if we look at the Kumo cloud exactly here. It is clear that in almost these areas we have, meaning if we go 26 candles back, we can almost say that the bullish situation has started for us. So, considering the cross between the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen and the cross from the Kumo cloud, we can expect that our bullish move will be a strong one and that the movement has started. Another important point is that if, for example, this candle that was a candle that, for example, I personally closed here, maybe I would adjust its color. This candle was such that it was almost closed here, meaning above 50% of this candle that we have here. We assume that this is entirely one candle, and if it closed above 50% of it above America, I would also consider the top of this candle as an entry point for myself. An important point is that when you are looking at the candles, for example, if we want to look here, you will observe that this candle here has broken down with a lot of strength. So it shows that our trend is very likely a reversal or a downward trend that has started here. if we want to look here, we have a very slight upward movement, and if you also want to look at the candles, you will see the candle and the candle. If you also want to look at the candles, you will see and the candle. They weren't powerful, but here the candles compared to the bullish leg we had here, we can almost say they had a lot of strength compared to here. So it's very likely that our bullish trend has started. Well, if we place this point, meaning here, as our entry point, it means we had a bullish move, experienced a pullback to this very same level, and then had another bullish move upwards. We almost can say that this is exactly the same candle. The pullback we had can be considered as our entry point, meaning here, we can consider it as our entry point. Personally, I place the bottom of the Kumo Cloud, or the Tenkan-sen itself, as my stop loss, and look for a 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio. Here, approximately, on this candle, my 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio was hit. The interesting point about this strategy is that we need to perform a trailing stop. If we had done a trailing stop with the same Tenkan-sen we have here, we could have almost achieved a 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio. When the lower channel breaks, we take approximately 4 from this position with a 3 and 6 bar. Well, has our downward trend started here or not? An important point I need to mention is that when the candles have a lot of distance, let me remove this so it can be seen better. When the candles are far from the Kijun-sen, the Kijun-sen itself has a gravitational pull and tries to attract the candles towards itself to create some balance in the market. And as you can see here, it has attracted them, and we can almost say that it has created a sideways situation for us. If we go back to the same position we took. Where are our support points? The Tenkan-sen itself can act as a support for us. The Kijun-sen line can act as a very strong support for us, especially when we have a flat state for a long time. For example, if we look right here, it can act as a very good support zone for us. Now, because I changed all the colors, and as you can see, it has almost reached this cloud area and has created an almost supportive movement for us. This area where the Kijun-sen and Hichōtsu itself has flattened acts as a very strong support for us. Where are the next supports? Above the Senku-A. The Senku-A itself acts as our first support. For the cloud itself, inside the cloud, the flat Kumo acts as the second support, and the Senku-B acts as the third support is on the cloud. Although, as I mentioned earlier, we exited this position from this area. One of the important points I need to mention is that when we have such a cross on the upper side and reach above the Kumo Cloud, and we experience a pullback, it almost creates a kind of engulfing pattern. If we observe pin bar candles here, we can enter the position much more easily. The next point I need to mention is where you should set your take profit once you have taken a position and entered into profit. Now, since this is almost a historical chart, we don't have very specific price action points on gold here. But for example, if we have a situation here, for example, if we had a trading swing here, let me change the color of this. We had a swing here. We can set our take profit at the top of this swing or just above it. We can also use price action principles for our trailing stops. Another trading strategy that I personally recommend is to use that as well. Now, let me remove this line to make it a bit clearer. I recommend using the Kijun-sen and Tenkan-sen cross for taking positions. The way to take a position is like this. When we have a cross situation, for example, if we look here, we can almost say, now, because they overlap, we can't see this cross, and this is where we can see the exit from this cross. Almost here in this same candle, we have a cross. Or right here, we indeed experienced a downward cross. Now let's consider both together. When we have a cross here, we often go 26 candles forward, which means almost right here. This candle that you see here, let me highlight this formation. This candle. Up to this candle we can go back and forth, and we define the upper and lower bounds of this area. If we want to say here, its ceiling is almost this candle and its floor is here. Waktam. When we have a cross on the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen together, we can use this cloud. Wafao. When we use this rectangle that we have drawn. When this rectangle is broken upwards, now let me make this a bit clearer. When this rectangle is broken upwards, we can enter a position as well. For example, here in this candle, we almost broke the ceiling upwards. So we can enter a long position here, place our stop loss below the Kijun-sen, and look for take profit targets, provided we do not use trailing. But when we use trailing, we should examine this area, and you might notice that we almost managed to form a wave 5 from this point. One of the things I personally do is take this rectangle we have and place it above this area. Now let me remove this so it can be seen better, and I use this area that has broken upwards as one of my take profit targets. If I see that the movement is strong, what do? I look for another wave 2. And with this method I can execute a very good trailing stop, and as long as this rectangle is not broken downwards, I stay in my positions. Also, here I can use the Kijun-sen as well, and it can be said that, there isn't a significant difference between the signals we can generate with these two methods. Let's examine this here so it becomes clearer. As we explained earlier, here we are experiencing a cross above and below between the Kijun-sen and Tenkan-sen. We go back 26 candles, which is approximately here, and we set the highs and lows of this market area as our entry points. So here we had the cross above and below, up to this point. When the line we drew is broken above or below, we enter the position. That is, we can almost say that here we entered the position and we place our stop loss above this rectangle until we enter profit. Or we can place it above this Kijun-sen as our stop loss. If we place it as our stop loss, this is our entry point. And it can be said that our stop loss was hit here. But personally, when I am doing this, I place the stop loss initially just above the rectangle. We have here until I enter profit. Once we enter profit, we gradually start a trailing stop. And if we want to look here, now let me remove this rectangle, we can say that a short position is here, which is where it broke below 7, and we are looking for a 1.5 R bar, which is exactly what happened here. With the break of the Kijun-sen above, we could have exited this position as well, which gave us a 1.5 R bar. So here I explained two common methods to you, one based on the break of the Ichimoku Cloud and the other based on the cross between the Kijun-sen and Tenkan-sen. Now let's simplify the chart a bit. What happens is that I will remove the Tenkan-sen again, and one of the rare instances that I believe can be quite profitable. Let me explain to you. For example, when we look at this point, when we experience an upward cross and the Kijun-sen itself is experiencing an upward movement, this means that we can say, the situation we have here is correct, but if the Kijun-sen itself had a movement like this, and the cross that occurred was with high momentum, upwards, and here the momentum of the Kijun-sen was downwards, we could have taken a very good position. Here, exactly with the breakout of this area upwards, we could have entered the position and placed our stop loss below this swing. And we ourselves should come and perform a trading mode for the Tenkan-sen. This is a case that happens very rarely. Be precise. The Kijun-sen itself must be broken with great intensity. If we want to look here, we can say that we don't have such a thing here. Now I say, this is a very rare case. It very rarely happens that the Kijun-sen is strongly downward while the candles themselves move strongly upward. This creates a very good profit opportunity for you. So this is also one of the cases where you can use it at any time for your trades. Before we move on to the next method, which I will explain how we can trade with it, and I'm sure it has been rarely discussed or not discussed at all, let me tell you, I recommend you to hit the bell icon, definitely subscribe and check out the content. Different strategies can really help you achieve great profitability. The latest strategy posted on the channel is based on price action, and in my opinion, it's a really attractive strategy. Friends who use price action for their trades can use this method, and it can bring you very good profitability. I'm discussing various strategies. Choose in the they place them based on indicators. I am reviewing various methods like price action, ICT, RTM. I recommend checking all of them out because they can really increase your profitability. I recommend the Tabriz strategy leader. Don't miss it. Or my own personal strategy, which is based on indicators and can truly create very good profitability for you. As I mentioned to you, one of the ways you can determine what the major trend will look like and whether your trend has become range bound is when the cloud becomes thin and thick. When the cloud becomes thin and thick and the candles are weak, meaning we have several candles moving up and down, there's a very high probability that we are experiencing a range bound situation in our area. Let's take a look here. This means I come here to specify exactly this area, which we also need to train on if we want to look at this area. Yes, the congestion here can almost be said to have created a range for us, or if we want to look at this area, which is a better example, viewers understand when the Kumo cloud thickens. It creates a range for us. Why? Because above the cloud and below the cloud, they act as a resistance and support for us. And be precise, when the candles move towards this thick cloud, the probability of forming a range is higher for us. But if we want to look at this area, you can observe that since the candles are above this cloud, it can be said that it has a weak range formation for us. Or if we want to look at this area, you can observe that this area where the cloud is thick is almost the same. And it has created a range condition for us. So with this Kumo cloud, we can identify the range formation, or by using this Kijun-sen, which becomes flat, it acts as a very important area for us to identify the range condition. Alright, let's move on to the next method we use. Pay attention, this method I'm going to explain works very well on higher time frames, and you shouldn't be looking to use this method on lower time frames. Alright, as you know, the Kumo cloud is approximately 26 candles ahead of our movement. The method we use is such that when Senko span A and Senko span B almost overlap, we cycle standard line. We can say that this situation has almost occurred here, and we will examine other places as well. If we go back 26 candles, we can say that it was right here. When we see something like this, we can expect a very strong bullish movement to start. If we look at this candle, we could have entered a position here. Now, let's take a look at this part. We place our entry point there, and as long as the upper channel is not broken, we can stay in these positions. Let's find a few more examples. Now, it's quite rare for such cases to occur, but we can say it exists here, although the distance is not very small. This is exactly what happened here. If we go back 26 candles, at least meaning approximately in this very candle, we have such a situation. Here we can enter a position, even if in the middle of this very candle, if we see this situation, we could have taken at least a 1.5 to 2 R bar, and here we could have even taken a 3 R bar. Now, if it reaches Kijun Sen, we would close the position and we could have approximately taken a 1.5 R bar from this position as well. Okay, let's find other instances based on this method to see where such an event occurred. Let's take a look here. Go back at 26 candles. It would be approximately this candle where the break of the upper level happened. Meaning, if we had entered a long position right at this candle, we could have easily taken a very suitable R bar. That is, if we considered this point as our exit point where the candle opened below the Kijun Sen, we could have taken an R bar of 5. Now, even if we didn't reach this point, we could have secured a very unusual profit with this method, meaning we could have taken approximately an R bar. We are of 3 from this position. It's truly an attractive R bar. Well, there are other methods based on Ichimoku that we will discuss in detail in future posts. For example, trading with Heikinashi and Ichimoku itself, or using 2 Ichimoku indicators together, which can really yield very good profits for you. However, considering that the duration of this video has become quite long, I will try to talk about those strategies with you in future posts. So my feeling is that if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about this post, often, and the various trading strategies based on Ichimoku that I have presented to you, and be sure to share the content with your friends. Wishing you happiness and profitability.